Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the insideLINES podcast. I'm your host, Atoya Burleson.
And I am Avril.
Coming up a bit later in the show, we'll be chatting with licensed psychotherapist Carlyne Graham. But before we get into all of that, Tia, what's been going on with you?
Oh, what is it? This is November. Girl, not much. Just, trying to keep your head above water, trying to keep your head above a schedule, all the things. I think we talked about last week that November is here and the year is winding down, and that's what I've been feeling this week. Lots of stuff to wind down, but chilling. What about you? What you been up to?
Football playoffs for my son. He sprained his ankle, but he's trying to get back. They're in the playoffs, so he's trying to get back for this next game. So we've been doing a lot of therapy and getting him right. And my in-laws are in town visiting, hanging for a while. So yeah, they came to see him play, and unfortunately he couldn't in the last game, but hopefully he'll be back this game. So, but we just been hanging and chilling, enjoying each other.
You got to tell Miss Val and Big Al I said hello.
I definitely
Big Al's like my favorite person, and I have not seen him in so long.
I know. It has been a minute even for us. Lots of moving parts. They be moving. They're both retired, so they be moving and shaking. So we're glad to have them with us for a little while. So they're going to hang hopefully through the holidays. So it'll be good. Good times.
Oh, good. How's Lil Nate doing?
Lil Nate's doing good. He it's just so weird. Every time I see a picture of him when they post him, he looks so much like more mature and grown.
Really?
Yeah. And even when I talk to him, I'm like, you sound like a young man. It's just, it's very bizarre, but it's a blessing and it's a good thing because the things that he says, I just feel so good about it when I get off the phone. Like he's really getting it. He's maturing. He's doing well. And that's what you want ultimately as a parent. Although it's hard to see them leave, when you see them doing well and kind of settling into becoming a young adult, it's a great feeling as a mama. So I can't complain, and I can't wait to have him home for a Christmas break. Just counting it down.
It's a nice pat on the back. Is he not coming home for Thanksgiving?
No, they have games still. Yeah, they have a game out that Saturday after Thanksgiving. So he's still in the grind. So.
Oh, good.
But welcome to adulthood, son. No Thanksgiving for you.
I was talking about y'all the other day, actually to my lash lady. You laying on the table for that good hour. And she was talking, we were talking about like how to like discipline your kids because she's like, she feels like she yells, like she feels like she's yelling a lot, like and repeating herself in general. And I told her, I said, you know what? The smoothest person I done seen discipline somebody was Atoya. Because she don't yell, but she be like, oh, okay. Oh, you want me to do what? No, because you remember 2 days ago when I asked you to do X, Y, and Z, you didn't want to do it. So we're not doing it, but maybe next time. All right, son. And, and I just, so I'm like, that was just kind of like the light bulb because it's like you can run around yelling and stuff to your kids, because everybody get frustrated, whatever.
Yeah.
But repeating yourself, but at the end of the day, who end up mad? You, and they be fine 5 minutes later,
like,
right?
Why am I exerting all this energy?
Yes, but I told her I was like, kind of like the way I saw you discipline, it was in such a respectful way that the kids knew like, okay, well, she ain't gonna hoop and holler or whatever, but it still kept a good relationship. And so I was like, talking about, I'm like, and now you think her kids are older, so of course she's not having to discipline them, but they have a really great relationship, but the groundwork was laid. So I was just talking about y'all. But
yeah, those are my buddies.
Anyway,
y'all keep them tabs. Mama. Keep them tabs. You want them to do something? Keep them tabs. When they say, hey, mom, can I go here? Did you clean your room? Because now we both winning. You want to go? Get that room clean. We can go. Let's go. Clean your room.
Look, I ain't gonna holler about it.
Keep them tabs. I'm telling you, it works. It's mine. It's the psychology of the mind. You got to play them games right back. And you win. But don't trip. Every now and then I do need to let them know that I'm not playing.
That is in there.
I can't say I don't yell at all. That's not realistic. Every now and then you got to be mom and they're like, oh, she's serious. Let's go. Yeah.
But minimal. It was minimal.
All right. But let's get into our women in sports segments here.
Yes. Okay. So we talked to you guys last week about the National Women's Soccer League. Their championship was this past Saturday. The New York, New Jersey Gotham team, they faced off with Reign. It was Gotham's first time at a championship match, and the Reign, this was their third. And y'all, the Reign failed to Gotham. Gotham won their first title 2-1. And what was so exciting going into the game was this was Megan Rapinoe's last game, and also FC defender Ali Kriege, I think that's how you pronounce her name. Both of them, they have been playing for years. They were retiring after this game, and unfortunately, Megan was injured like minutes into the game. They think she tore her Achilles. So, but she's had a wonderful career, but it really was a storybook ending for Ali. So hopefully you guys caught the game, because it was really good. And make sure y'all are supporting all of these women's sports, like women's basketball is up and going.
Yes.
LSU, Colorado, did you catch that game?
Oh my gosh,
Atoya.
Crazy. And you saw Shaq come in the locker room after the game too?
Colorado. Yeah. So it's just been good. Like women's sports have been really good. So hopefully you guys have been taking advantage and checking them out. And I'll be back next week with another take.
That's right. And speaking of supporting people, make sure you guys support us. Go get our new Inside Lines t-shirt, season 5. It's amazing. It has the 5 on the sleeve. Check it out. Go to insidelinespodcast.com. Also, check our link in our bio. But check out our merch. Support us. Let everybody know about us. And we greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. And now we're going to get into our episode with Carlyne Graham. On the show today, we have an amazing and inspirational female who hails from Detroit, Michigan. She served in the United States Army Reserves, has a master's degree in social work and a master of jurisprudence with a concentration in family and child law. And she also has a law degree from Loyola University of Chicago. She is the wife of Super Bowl champ Brandon Graham and mother of 2. Please welcome to the show, Carlyne Graham. How are you?
Yay. Thank you. I'm doing pretty good.
Listen, I am exhausted even saying all that because your accolades are so amazing. In this short span of life, you've done so much. But the first thing I want to unpack is, with all the layers that are who you are, is I just want to first thank you for your service and your courage. You talked about completing basic training camp at 17 years old.
Yeah.
Tell me your insights from that time going into this part of your life and how it influenced everything else as you moved forward.
You know what? When I was in high school, I was very intrigued with the ROTC program. And I did like a summer camp or something like that. That was kind of, it mirrored what basic training would be like for a high schooler. So it seemed fun at that time. But I'm adopted. So like I come from like very humble beginnings. I was in the foster care system until I was like 2 years old. And I'm not going to pack like family dynamics, but it was just very humble beginnings. And I just knew I wanted to be different from what was around me. And I didn't have like what my kids have now, like trust funds and like education funding already in place. And so I know I wanted to go to school. And at that time, that was the only thing that seemed more plausible to kind of like do, So my mother at the time, she had to sign me over to the military. I was 17. I was a junior in high school. And so I did like considered at that time, it was called a split up opportunity where, because I was still a minor, my mother had to sign me over, and I did my basic training the end of my junior year in high school. And then I came back, finished my senior year. And then after my senior year, I was like, I don't know if I want to, like, cause not thinking, but I had to be committed to it, So the end of my senior year, I went and did my MOS training, and basic training was, oh my God. Like,
was it crazy?
So I just remember my mother dropping me off, and, we were doing our farewell, the drill sergeants and everything. They were all, come on, they were excited to have us there. And we get on the bus, and then I just remember them closing the door, and it was like completely different person. They were like yelling at us, put your head down. You can't see where you're going. You don't have that privilege. And and at that time I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? You know? But I would tell you that was probably one of the best things that I probably could have done for myself coming from the east side of Detroit. It instilled so much discipline. It instilled hard work. It instilled like the neatness that I have, my organization. It was probably in hindsight, it was probably one of the best things that I could have done for myself.
How long did you have to commit for?
So, you know what? God has been on my side throughout this whole entire time. So yeah, it was kind of hard for me to kind of like receive those accolades for just Veterans Day and just different things like that, because, you know, I kind of felt kind of guilty for, you know, not going overseas and not, you know, doing what a lot of veterans typically do. But I served my country in a way that I needed to serve, you know. But I think around that time, it was like I was a freshman or a junior in college. And I got the call to go and do my physical to go overseas. And I think we were fighting Afghanistan around that time. And I went to go do my physical. Again, they don't allow anyone to go over there. Like if you have like impacted teeth or any type of thing, they want to make sure all of that stuff, it's like you're 100% before you go over there. And I go through my physical, and this medical doctor, he can tell that I was like super worried. You know, he was just, you know, trying to talk me through the process and ask me, did I have like a support system, you know, to help me through what was going on. And at that time, I didn't. I had my friends, but I didn't have like a really good support family system, contrary to popular belief. So he's like, okay, we go through the physical. And at that time, he was like, you have a really, really bad stress ulcer in your stomach. And he was like, this is what I can do for you. I can give you an honorable discharge, a medical discharge, or I can get this fixed for you. And then after it's fixed for you, it will all be on us. We will pay for it, obviously, because they need me to. I'm pretty much the United States of America's property. So they're going to fix everything. And you will have to go overseas after you're 100% healed. He was like, or I can give you a medical discharge, an honorable medical discharge out, but we would not be responsible for this issue. You will have to figure that out on your own. And I was like, I'll take the honorable medical discharge. Like, I just I was not comfortable. And at that time, I just felt like me doing 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks, I just wasn't prepared. Now, when people come to me and they ask me about the military, I would say if I can do it all over again, I probably would be a full-time in the Navy, in the Air Force. I would have picked a different choice and a different route. But doing 1 weekend a year and doing only the 2 weeks out of 1 weekend a month and the 2 weeks out of the year, it just wasn't for me at that time. I was not comfortable and I wasn't confident at all. So I chose that route and I ended up finishing school, and the rest is history.
And that's understandable at your age. You gotta that's a lot to take on and to even comprehend, especially to your point, you don't even have the support system to help talk you through it. That's a lot for you to absorb and try to figure out in such a brief period of time. You mentioned something earlier where you you said that you were adopted. And I'm sure that there's a story there on into where you are now. I would love for you to kind of tell us more about that.
Do you want the long story or do you want the short story?
Whichever you feel comfortable.
Let me see. So I am adopted, and it wasn't the best situation. It was the best that they thought. Now that I'm in this space as a mother, you know, every parent brings on their parenting skills from what they receive from their parents. Right. So like at this point, I'm a little bit more forgiving of some of the things and the communication issues that went on in our household. So I just didn't feel like I belonged there. And a lot of adoptees tend to feel that way when they know something's off. They don't fit in.
So they didn't tell you?
Unit. They told me. They told me when I was like, because I was in a foster care system for like maybe like 2 years. And then I remember being like this young little girl and just like asking questions. And they told me, we adopted you. And it wasn't the best way to tell a little girl at that time. Yeah. It was more so along the lines like, I'm pretty much doing you a favor in a sense, if it wasn't for me, X, Y, and Z, it wasn't the best way to communicate to a little kid. Yeah. So like I went through life with that on my shoulders,
Absolutely. Almost feeling like you were indebted to them.
Yeah. Okay. And so, fast forward, I put myself through college. I went through the military. And then I go to Chicago. I moved to Chicago, and Brandon reconnects with me. Like, we knew each other in high school. The funny thing was, I was introduced to him at the time by my then boyfriend. So Brandon is like 2 years younger than me. He came in.
Cougars unite. Okay, go ahead.
I knew it was coming.
And so I guess my boyfriend was kind of like giving him a tour of the school. And I just remember just like, oh, he's a little young boy. Like, okay. And then after that, I don't remember anything because I was so caught in my boyfriend at the time. I'm in high school. And he reconnects with me while I'm in Chicago. And he would just like send messages like, hey, I see what you're doing. Just checking on you. If you're ever in Detroit, look me up. You should come watch me play. He was trying to throw like the football thing in, like kind of a big deal, like, and I'm like, boy, what is your backup plan? Like,
what, he was in college at the time?
Yeah, he was at U of M. Yeah.
Okay.
And so he was still, I think it was maybe like a year before he went into the draft. So he reached out to me, and I don't know. I went to visit him a couple of times. I was the breadwinner because I was working. So I was taking him out to dinner and, all of these different things. And I never really paid any attention to him as an athlete. I just remember him just being, oh, this is Brandon who I went to school with. But he will always try to bring it up. Like, come to one of my games. You should watch me play on Saturdays. He would throw those things in the conversation. And I just remember just, dating him for off and on for a while. And then he was like, I want you to be my date to the draft party. And I was like, okay. And I just was like, well, why are we doing the draft in Detroit? Like, isn't the draft in like New York?
New York or something.
And he was like, well, I could have went to New York. I just didn't want to go to New York because I messed my hamstring up, and they're telling me that I might go in the second round. So I didn't want to be sitting in New York and the cameras, all in my face.
Yes, that part.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. And then I'm thinking it's going to probably be like maybe like a camera or something like that. And when we pulled up to the hotel, it was like a local reporter there, like asking him questions. It was just one reporter. It was like, okay. And going to the room, I'm ironing his clothes, helping him get ready. And then we go into like the suite that they had for us. It was like cameras everywhere. Like,
were you like,
I was so nervous. Like, I just remember like, what in the world did I get myself into? Like, I went all the way in the corner in the back. I got one of his little cousins who was a baby at the time. I think she's like 14 years old now. I just remember sitting in the corner holding her. And then I just started Googling him. Like, what?
Who was this person? Yeah.
Like, what in the world? Like, what's going on? And then he ended up going like the first round, the 13th pick. And everybody's like rushing to me, like, go up there with him. I was like, nah, this is his moment. Like, let him enjoy this. And I think at that time when I made that decision to do it that way, everyone was like, oh, she's a keeper. Like, because I wasn't trying to like
there for that.
Yeah. So he had to come find me. And then we went to go upstairs to a quiet room to speak to, I believe, Andy Reid and Howie and all of them. We went upstairs to have a conversation with them. And I just remember just being scared. Like, I don't know if this is for me. And I remember like just him moving to Philadelphia. I was still in Chicago and everyone was just like on my head. Like, are you going to transfer to go to school there? It was just so many big decisions that people were asking me to do. And I just knew for me, I needed to finish what was for me. And I was to stay in Chicago. So I told him, like, look, you enjoy this part of your life. We'll remain friends. We'll communicate. And I just remember we just built this lovely friendship for like maybe 4 years, like of just going back and forth. He would tell me about some of the girls he was dating, and we still had our little thing going on, but it was like a friendship that we were building, because I was really scared about like that athlete thing, stigma that was going on. But he was completely different. He was like, I'm waiting on you, girl.
Wait, okay, so let's go back for a second. Yeah. What, you were afraid of which part? Like, just
the stigma of like what athletes are, like cheaters, like immature, and the women that come along with it, that lifestyle. Like, I wasn't around that. I wasn't raised around that. We both come from very humble beginnings. So I just automatically assumed that what comes with him being a pro athlete comes with
all this
heartbreak and the negativity, not thinking about the positive, because he was always a positive, respectful young man. He never was disrespectful. He never had that attitude about him. So I didn't see past that. I only saw what I just heard,
Yeah. And you probably wanted to, like, it's kind of like you wanted to protect your space. Like you talk about coming from humble beginnings, working so hard to get to a space to where you are, where you're solid, where you're good. You wanted to keep that. You didn't want to bring in all that, to your point, all the things that they say comes along with when you become an NFL athlete.
Yeah. And then I also have to think about like the trauma that I just healing from at that time, from
absolutely,
my family dynamic. So I worked so hard to be independent and get to where I was. I didn't have to rely on anyone for anything, because I was making a way for myself. I was like in survival mode. So here you throw in this crazy element that was very scary for me, that I just was like, I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, but I want to be friends with him.
You still want your friend,
he was such, and then at that time, he was going through so much here in Philadelphia. Like, he got injured and he wanted to quit. He had so many different like family dynamics that was like, coming along with that. Yeah. And I would just be on the phone with him while he's crying and having a hard time. Like, I don't know if this is what fame and money is. I don't want it. And I had to kind of like talk him off that ledge. So we were like really, really, really good friends. So, yeah.
I'm glad you spoke on even that piece, like that uncertain piece for him, just like, oh, I think I want to quit too. Because people think in general, like some of these guys have been playing ball, whether it's football, basketball, whatever, since they 5, 6, 7 years old, and them making it to the NFL or making it to whatever professional level is their dream. But when you get there, it's almost like, well, damn, I didn't expect all the other stuff that came along with it. I thought I would just be able to live out my dream and be compensated for it. Can you, so what changed in you guys' relationship that you decided like, okay, this is a fearful situation, but I'm gonna go ahead and take the leap and follow my heart?
Well, he got himself in a sticky situation with another female, and he just, and at that time, I knew who the girl was, the young lady. It was someone that he was frolicking around with, and she scared him. She scared him, and he just was like, this is not for me. Like, you need to tell me. I don't want to be out in the streets. I don't want to be, and now when I say the streets, I mean like hanging out, going to clubs, being entertaining other women. He was like, after that situation subsided and, the layers of that uncovered, and it was lies and deceit from that, he just was like, look, like, you need to tell me if you want to be in a relationship with me, because if you want to be in a relationship with me, we will make it work. And I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to play this game. I'm waiting on you. So let me know what you want to do. And I was like, okay, like, let's make this work. That's right. And so we started dating long distance for probably like a year. And then I finished school around that time. I started to go into like my profession in Chicago. And then at that time, he was like, nah, let me stop that. Like, because he knew if I would have dove into it, he knew he waited until I finished school. He waited until, you know, he dove in at the right time, and he was like, what do you think about moving here? And I was like, okay, I'm done with school. Okay, I can do that. And I was like, but if I move here, what does this mean for us? Like, I need to figure out, like, because I'm not about to move for, you know. And so he was like, I'm not playing with you. You know, if you move here with me, if you say you're going to move here with me and you start looking for jobs here, trust me. And so within a month, I ended up finding a job there. And then after that, he ended up proposing to me. So.
And the rest is history. Yes. I love that story because it shows so many different things that a lot of people don't understand. It shows the patience that you had to allow the relationship to unfold the way it needs to unfold. It shows your ability to be a friend, to talk, to communicate about the things that, even though you may have had feelings for him, you understood where you guys were and you still wanted to keep that open communication. And so, like, I think about it, you know, your determination to still do what you wanted to do. And you were like, no, I still want to do these things. And his patience to be like, okay, do you as well. And then to the point where he's like, okay, you can't do you come on over here. Come on, be with me, baby. Come on, this is it. That's a beautiful story. So I appreciate you sharing that. I think a lot of women, they get scared or they don't know or understand that. And so they don't know how to be patient, or they don't know how to just openly communicate with their significant other in a space where they're just able to receive and vice versa. So that's a great story. It really is.
Yeah. And I think a lot of women that I share the story with, because I get a lot of young girls.
Yep.
Been around for a while. And I just remember coming into this, because I call it a little bubble. It's like a little small world. And when you come into this, like, you have identity issues, you have, you know, your priorities start to shift. It's so many things that go on. And I always tell young girls, the ones that always ask me for advice, I always tell them to stay true to who they were. You know, who you are as a person, what made this guy fall in love with you, what made this guy pick you, and your overall personality as a person. Make sure you stay true to that. Don't shift in any direction. Make sure you stay true to that.
Yeah. And it's also the iteration of, like, don't stop what you have going on. Right. So to your point, you 3 degrees in at this point, right? And you decide to follow love, but you had always poured into yourself at each point. Okay. So you mentioned a little bit about family dynamics for both Brandon. I'm going to assume you, because I keep thinking about this whole OU notion, right? Like, people have done you a favor, so to speak, right? How did, when you decided to move to Philly, to be with Brandon, etc., can you talk about the family dynamics on both of you guys' side that kind of impacted your relationship or your experience being in this NFL bubble?
So for me, my family dynamics were always strained in a sense, because when I went off to college, I was pretty much the only one that went away to college. And so my family dynamics wasn't really always the best, you know, so I learned how to be by myself. I was okay with being in my singleness. Like, I was okay with being just me. But I always had like a soft spot. So if someone needed something, even before Brandon, I will always try my best to kind of like help someone out, you know? So when he came into the picture, I was very protective over that. Like, I don't bring that along, and I won't bring that along into my relationship because of the humble beginnings that I come from. And when I mean humble, I mean it very respectfully. Like, the east side of Detroit and the things that I saw and the things that I witnessed, even to this day, some things, personal things that I'm dealing with now, tragically with my brother, I just protect him from that. And now I have a family, like I have a daughter and a son that I have to protect. And so I never played about me. So now I'm responsible for him and my children, and I don't play about them. So like when people are calling asking for stuff, it's very far in between, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. Like I think it's important to, because you don't want to put that burden on your husband. You know, it's not his responsibility to take care of X, Y, and Z on your side. And although they may not say something, they feel it. Right. So I agree with you 100% on that. Speaking of family, I know you discussed a little bit about your family and you having your 2 little babies and trying to figure out, okay, I was adopted. I need to figure out where I came from. I would love to know, you know, whose DNA I have. Tell us about that story.
So that's a fun story. So when Brandon told me, hey, I want to have kids, this is something that's very important for me. I want to do that right away. In the NFL, it means not for long. I want to be able to have that experience with my child before, you know, it's the end. So I was like, okay. I was like, if I do that, then I really need to know more about who I am as a person. So he was like, okay, I'll get a private investigator, you know, we meet with the private investigator. I give him the information that I know, the stuff that was on my birth certificate and the little information that my adopted mother gave me. And I would say like maybe during that time, I also did Ancestry.com. And then I went to my doctor and I think I paid like maybe like $800 or $1,000 to do like a genetic DNA test to see if I had like any diseases or you know, so I just wanted to make sure like I wasn't passing anything along that I didn't know I had. So I checked that off. That was fine. I did Ancestry. And at that time, that was like maybe like 12 years ago when it was like starting first blossom.
Really blow up. Yeah.
So I did it. And I think at that time, when you buy it, you get like a year subscription, you know? So I did it and nothing came from that. Only thing I found out from that was that I was like half Sicilian. So I'm half Italian and I'm Black. So I was like, okay. When a year was up, I thought that I deactivated the account and I was like, okay, I'm gonna move on. So rewind back to the private investigator situation. It took him maybe like a month to find some stuff. And so I got Ancestry. I knew I was mixed. I got the information from my doctors. I knew I didn't have any type of
Did you know you were mixed before the Ancestry thing?
So I kind of had a feeling, you know, just based off of how I looked as a person and some of the information. My mother, she said she thought I was. She didn't know, like, she didn't tell me the full story. So I was like, I was at peace with that information, you know, with Ancestry, with the genetic test. And so a month later, the investigator come back with like this printout of information. He was like, okay, this is what I have. And he was like, we would have to go physically to these people's door and knock on the door and say, hey, do you know or do you have a connection to X, Y, and Z? And that was so scary for me because I was like, well, what if they say, yeah, but I don't want her because I just received some information from a very close friend of my family, and she is a high profile person, and she did the same exact thing. And she just was like, she told me she didn't want me. Like I was a product of a biracial relationship and her family did not want her to be with a Black man. So she had to give her baby up for adoption. And that was very hurtful to see her go through that because, and keep in mind, she is maybe like 20 years older than me. So like she's sharing this information with me and she was like, you know, just be careful, be open to what the positive and the negative could be, right?
Yeah.
So I have all of these 3 different informations and I go in and sit down with this private investor and I was like, no, I'm okay. I'm content. Let's just leave it here at this. And Brandon was like, no, let's go down. He wanted to go down the rabbit hole.
He wanted to know.
He wanted to know. And I just was like, no, I'm okay. You know, I felt safe. I felt secure in my relationship. I felt protected. I didn't, at one time out of like the 20 something years, like I didn't feel like I was like in survivor mode. Like I had my comfort, you know? So I was like, what else do I need? Like, I don't really need that, you know, like I'm gonna create my own family with you. Like, I don't know if I have enough room in my heart to open up that for disappointment or for more people that I have to love. So he was like, all right, you know, he just left it at that. He respected my wishes. And I thought that was the end of it. Like, I thought it was like, okay, fast forward, girl.
Wait, what do you do?
Fast forward. I was pregnant with my son, right? So I was like maybe like 6-7 months pregnant. The day after Thanksgiving, I get these 2 random emails. One from my older brother and one from my younger brother. The older brother, he was like, had all of this information. He's like, I met you. I loved you. I just remember seeing you at 6 months old. If you have the same name as our mom. I know you had the same name as our mom. Like, if you want more information, your mother's still alive. She's been looking for you. It was just like, it was so overwhelming. And soon as he said, your mother wanted you, you were taken from her. I just felt it was like a weight on my shoulder. I just was just crying, like crying. And then the next email was from my younger brother. Neither one of them knew that they were emailing me at the time. And this is through ancestry.com. Remind you, I thought I deactivated the account, right?
Thank God you didn't. Wow.
So he's like, hey, I think we're related. Let's chat. And I'm like, what is going on? So like, I called Brandon. I'm on the phone bawling. And it could be because I was emotional because I'm pregnant.
Because I'm about to tear up. This was some years ago. It wasn't even me.
Yeah. And so he was like, so what you want to do? Like, he's super excited. He on the phone like, heck yeah. Like, this is what I prayed for. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. Like, what if, you know, because I think earlier that year, we just won the Superbowl. It was all in the media. Our face was plastered everywhere. And I was like, what if this is a scam? Like, what? Like, and so
think about that.
And so like, I'm very like, cautious, and Brandon is going in full steam. He was like, well, if you don't believe it, you know, just keep emailing them and just get as much information as you can, and then I'll have our team here at Eagles, you know, look into them and, you know, and see what's going on, you know. And so for like maybe, so nothing came back. All of them were like great people. I end up just finally, like, I was just only texting and emailing for like a few months and like just trying to like see how I felt, you know. And then I finally talked to them over the phone, and girl, that story is wow. Like, her story, I think that's a whole nother, like,
your mom's story.
Yes, her story.
This regarding you being taken from her.
Yes.
Can you do a summary? Because I was going to ask you that, but it sounds like it's a whole lot to it. What happened that you were taken from her?
So based off of multiple reports, and then finally getting able to sit down and talk to her before she ended up passing away, which is like crazy. She just was like, my brothers, I was able to speak to my uncles and stuff at the time. She said that she was going through a hard time. She comes from Alabama, right? Like, they migrate up to Detroit because, you know, Detroit is the factory. This is like in the 80s, you know. Prior to that, when they come up, you know, everyone's coming up to get factory jobs and stuff. You know, she's from Alabama. Like, they come from this family of, you know, us as African American women's, like, we don't really talk about like mental health, right? So she ended up having my 2 older brothers back to back, you know. And so she's complaining about these feelings, these emotions. She was very paranoid that at the time her husband was cheating on her, and her sisters and everyone was like, girl, you got you a man that's like taking care of you, like, you know, get out of your head kind of like attitude towards her. So she felt super alone. Come to find out. So this is the story based off of my uncles. They said that she went and caught him cheating on her in a bed with another man. And she just completely flipped out. Like, she caught the house on fire and she ended up going into the streets. She was prostituting. She ended up getting into like this crazy like prostitution ring that was orchestrated by a bad police officer, right?
Sounds about right.
And she ended up getting into the situation, and she ended up finding out I was pregnant. She was pregnant with me. She ended up having me, got herself clean, was in a shelter for women, but you weren't allowed to have children. So she was sneaking me into the shelter, and someone told on her, and they took me from her. And so when they took me from her, when you lose your rights as a parent, you have like a certain timeline that you have to find like shelter. You have to find like, you have an income. You have to have all of those things in place before you get your rights restored. And she wasn't able to do it in enough time. So she ended up losing me. And then it triggered her rights as a mother to she lost my brother after that. I think that was her rock bottom. So she ended up like getting herself clean and going back to school, working for the company that she that saved her, and she ended up getting married and ended up having 2 more children after that. And then she ended up having a stroke, and then that's what happened.
Wow. I'm waiting for your book.
Yes, because I want to talk about how she was sneaking you in, protecting you. And these people I don't understand how they had the right to take you from her. That is unreal. Yeah. Like, I understand they should have kicked her out and saying, you can't have kids here. This is why. But you don't take somebody's baby. Like, that is crazy.
Yeah. And when I had the chance to speak to her and finally have a heart-to-heart conversation with her, because I was like having a hard time with just the feelings. It was just a lot of feelings, and I'm pregnant with my son, and I finally go in. I just made a random decision, like, come on, Brandon, let's just go meet her. She was in a nursing home 20 minutes away from where I was living in Michigan. We go up there and we had like this amazing time. Like, we were talking, we were playing cards, and like, it was just it was just an amazing feeling, and she was very apologetic. She was like, I hope you don't hate me. And, it was just, it was like, she was like so happy that, I was found. But at the same time, you could tell that she was just so guilty. But I felt like she knew I was safe, and it just brought like a layer of peace for her. So
that's good.
Yeah. Yep.
Lord have mercy.
And I love that you had that time with her before she did, transition. Like, I'm glad that you were able to connect with her and feel a part of you that you probably were missing for so long. I'm sure it's like almost a completion of like, okay, this is the woman that I came from. So
and she wanted me.
Yeah, right? And she wanted me. That was a very big thing for me, because, like, when you are adopted, you automatically, the first thing that pops in your head is like, they don't want you,
Yeah.
So, and then I also had like identity issues with that as well, because I never really saw myself in my kids, like I didn't have any baby pictures. So I only saw Brandon in them. So when I got more information, more pictures, I was like, wow, they do look like me.
They look like me. Yes.
Yeah. So much unraveled with that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love how you said, you weren't sure, but then something inside of you told you to just leap, to just go. And that was definitely your gut telling you it's time. You knew when you knew.
Yeah. I didn't know I needed it the way that I needed it. Like, we go through life with like all of these, like, with our guard up, like we put this protecting wall yourself around us because we been hurt, or we, bad things have happened. And so, like, I didn't realize that not having that part of me was so important to just hear and to get the correct information for me, just to even be just a better wife to my husband, and to my kids. And it just completely changed like the dynamics on how I interact with them. And I didn't know that there were issues, so you do things so subconsciously and without you even knowing, because of trauma.
Or you think you addressed it, and then something happened, you like, well, never mind, it wasn't fixed completely.
Exactly.
How is it connecting with your family now that you've
So my brother, who was also in the system based off of what was going on, he lives in DC. Like, and
that's right around the corner.
Yes. Yeah. Him and I have such a great relationship. We see each other. We're very intentional with us connecting and spending time with one another. I feel like he understands a little bit more because we both were the two that was, that went through the system and things like that. And he's doing so great for himself. He's like, he was in the Navy for like 8 years. Now he does.
Look at that.
He does IT work for the government. And then he's also a professor. He does IT. He's a professor for like IT stuff. So he's really good. And then all my other brothers and sisters, they're doing great. One is he's a truck driver. Another one is he's like a electrician contractor. So he goes into like these disaster zones where like there are hurricanes or tornadoes, and and he restores like electricity.
Power
and then my younger brother, he is a drill sergeant in the military. So yeah, he lives.
Look at the alignment, and you all three of you all who went into the armed forces had no connection, just in terms of growing up, but still ended up going the same way. Yep. Okay, so we can go down so many different paths with that story. But I want to get into what you are currently doing. Like, you are a licensed psychotherapist. Yes. Let's talk about this, because you are a professional student, right?
I'm done with school now.
That was it. You're tapping out. Boop, boop.
I'm done. After this last year, I went and got a certification to do lactation work for women, just to be in my practice of what I do, because I felt like that there was like parallels with psychotherapy, anxiety, and lactation work. So I just finished through the Drexel School of Medicine with my lactation certification. So I'm waiting to see if I passed the board exam for that. But yeah, so I do.
Saying a prayer.
Yeah.
So what made you even go back to school to become a psychotherapist?
Well, so with your social work degree, you can go. So there's 2 ways that you can use your social work degree. So you can either you can do the psychotherapy one-on-one route, or you can do what I end up being thrown into. So because I have a law degree, I was super overqualified. So I end up having a more leadership and development role, where I was going in and I was like running departments, and I was directors of departments. So I never really had the experience on the one-on-one face-to-face with my degree.
Well, client. Okay.
Yeah. So I end up
like client work. Are you referring to?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So face-to-face, like psycho. So I never had that experience. And so like I took a break, threw myself into motherhood, made sure Brandon was great. And I was like, you know what? I'm ready to get back to doing me. My kids are in school. You're about to retire. Like, I'm ready. I took a great break. You told me I could take a break. I said I wanted to take a break, and now I'm ready to get back. And so I was trying to decide, like, okay, do I want to go back into this director role and run programs and do all of that where I have this experience, or do I want to do face-to-face therapy work? So I was like, I could create my schedule. I can have my own practice. I can take clients whenever I want to. I thought that was the best fit for me, and have too much experience in that route. So I had to take the exam. I had to be licensed. I took the exam. I passed it on the first try. And now I work under a organization that tailors to women who have like anxiety, OCD, any type of perinatal mood disorders. I do psychotherapy in that work. And then in the midst of that, it's like, wait a minute, I see parallels here.
Yeah.
Let me go and get my license for lactation. And so that's where all that came from.
So how does that work? Is it, because I know you said that mothers that are struggling with this, is it throughout pregnancy and post-pregnancy?
So yeah, so before pregnancy, a lot of women tend to have like these. So just because it's perinatal, it can be before, and then perinatal is before, and then postpartum is like after. So anything before and anything after, I work with. So I do a lot of like anxiety work, depression work. I've recently started doing stuff with like OCD, where women, you know, have intrusive thoughts, and a lot of this is stimulated because of the pregnancy hormones and the shift in the dynamics of what's going on with their body and their mind. And then you throw a child that you have to take, care of, so just giving a little women just some support and guidance in that area.
I was going to say, because you picked the perinatal subject matter, right? Did you feel like there were gaps during like your experience with your pregnancy and stuff that you're like, okay, maybe I can feel some of this?
Yeah, so I just remember just noticing certain things that were kind of off. I didn't, for me, I don't think I experienced like postpartum depression. I do know I probably went through like a baby blues, and most women tend to go through a baby blues period. And then if it goes beyond a certain time frame, then it shifts into a postpartum depression time frame. But I did not feel like I went that far down the spectrum. I had a lot of support, I was very aware of like my feelings and the different things. I was never against speaking to someone. So I've had therapists before too. So, so it wasn't a parallel so much for me of a personal experience. I just noticed that there was not a lot of information out there that was readily available. And a lot of women are looking for Black therapists and looking for people that look like them, that can relate to them on a different kind of level, opposed to just giving them the information that they need.
Yeah. I'm glad that you kind of broke it down, talking about baby blues versus postpartum, because I think people do kind of lump it all together, and just explaining the difference between those two. What would you say to women that are, maybe had a baby and they're experiencing certain things, they're not sure what it is, but they are feeling things? What would you recommend that they do?
So what I would recommend is, I think that a lot of people, I would tell them, like, this is very common. This is very normal. These are very normal feelings. These are very normal thoughts. You're not the only one. And then I believe that a lot of women are scared because we only see in the media the extreme cases, like the psychosis. So and this extreme cases are very far in between, it's only publicized because it's in the media. But the cases of postpartum depression or anxiety or the OCD intrusive thoughts, like those cases are very common. They're very common, and it's very normal because of the hormonal shifts that we as women are going through so rapidly. So I would tell them that it's very common, and just to seek help. If you feel something is off, and you want help, to seek help, and don't be afraid to seek help, because you will find out that it's very common.
Yeah, the extreme cases is kind of what I heard of before. So I had postpartum depression with both kids. I got a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old. And after the 12-year-old, we lived in Detroit, and just the whole notion of like, okay, well, if I say that I think I'm depressed, do they think I'm gonna hurt my child? Because I don't want to hurt him. You know what I mean? So I appreciate, one, you being in the space and giving people in our community an example of someone they can turn to when they experience these types of things.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
we're gonna shift a little bit, and we're gonna talk. There's so many layers to Miss Carlyne. Okay, y'all, and we could seriously talk to you for hours. But I want to kind of shift a little bit and talk about you and Brandon. You started Team Graham 55 and Carla Circle, which you want to explain what these programs are and why they are important to you.
Yes. So Team Graham 55 is pretty much, it's like a resource connection. So we pretty much connect the resources that we get. So like a lot of people tend to want to just donate, like, right? They want to give you money, they want to support a cause. And I find that we like to connect those resources to our community, especially in Detroit. So Team Graham 55 originally started off as a camp, right? And we would do just, the normal, typical athlete football camp. We're empowering them. We have athletes there that are, you can see them, you can touch them, you can talk to them. They're relatable. And we're giving them like backpacks, we're giving them supplies, we're mentoring them. And then I felt as though like during that time, I was like, wait a minute, like what about the girls? Like, why can't we do something for women? You know, yeah. And it doesn't typically have to be just a cheerleading component, you know, like a lot of people tend to connect the two. So I wanted it to just be more so like Carla Circle. It's a mentoring, it's a mentoring program, and we do physical activities. So like the girls will be doing yoga, or we'll be doing obstacle courses. Sometimes we probably would do some cheering, but I just didn't want it to be that stigma of And so it turned into like a mentoring thing for me, and a mentoring component for him for the football stuff.
That's great, because it's an all-encompassing, right? And I love that. You know, it's not just the physical, it's also the mental. And, you know, there's all of the parts together is what makes you who you are. So I'm glad that you thought to do that. Yeah. Okay, so we got to talk about something really important, and that's the big game. Because not everybody makes it here. Yeah. Congratulations on winning the Super Bowl. And I'm going to say that to you, because we all know it's the person behind the player that makes them even better, team right? Effort, okay. So talk about that experience, because you see the pictures, but what is something that happened that maybe people don't know? Talk about it from your perspective. We would love to hear that.
So we had so which one you want, Arizona or do you want Minnesota? Because Minnesota was it's like night and day. Yeah. Two different outcomes, two different weather.
Well, we already know Minnesota was freezing. I was there, but just talk about the difference. Go ahead.
So the difference is because it was Philly's first time in a very long time going to a Super Bowl for Minnesota. So I felt like it was like chaotic behind the scenes. Like they have to pick up this big organization, family, friends, and they had to ship it to a different place, right? They had to do that within like a week or two, you know? So it was so many moving parts. So athletes don't have to think and worry about anything. They just have to worry about packing what they want to pack to put on this trailer for it to get there. Yeah. So we are left,
in the station,
scrambling.
Yes. Yep. Dealing with travel, dealing with family, dealing with ticket costs, dealing with everything, you know, and keep in mind, like,
costs. Talk about that,
girl.
How does that work?
So it's not free. I don't think people don't realize
how many people, because y'all were close to the D. So how many people y'all have come to Minnesota?
So we learned. So Minnesota, that was like,
it's the first
our
time.
prereq. We figured it out that time. Like we used up every ticket that we could possibly get from them. Yeah. And partially because it was like, this is a great experience. Let's give this experience to our grandparents, your mom, your dad, because some greats haven't been. Let's just treat everybody, right?
How many people you have?
We used every single ticket. I think it was like maybe like 12, 15 tickets that we were allotted that we used. And keep in mind, only 2 of them are free.
Yes.
So
you didn't do that bad.
Yeah. Me and Emma, so we didn't buy any tickets from anyone else. We just used what we could use. And me and Emerson at that time was free. So so wife and daughter is free. The other tickets we had to pay for, right?
And how much were they? Do you remember? Ballpark?
I think because it was like tier prices. So if I can remember, because it kind of doubled.
Yeah.
This from Arizona time. I think it ranged from like $1,200 to $1,500 a ticket.
Y'all hear that, right?
For Minnesota.
To $1,500 per ticket times 12 to 15 people. Y'all do the math.
And you also have to include, because in order for family members, they have to be in the same hotel. So you have to think about the rooms. You have to think about the ones, because we were in Minnesota, so a lot of people drove up, you know, so we didn't really have to worry about.
That's why I thought you would have had more than the 15.
No.
Yeah.
No. So with that being said, the more 15, like people still came, but our excuse was we only can get 15. So we're only going to make sure that we make sure that mom, dad, grandparents, sister, like the immediate family is taking care of it. But everybody else that came, they were there. They had like, you know, their own hotel experience. They had a watch party. And then I was able to get them passes to go to the after party when we won. So that was the catch, you know.
Y'all did good. Y'all had a nice handle on it.
And it was freezing in Minnesota.
Freezing. I didn't even go to the after party afterwards because it was cold. I didn't want to party with no one. I wanted to go back to the hotel with my daughter and go to bed because it was such an overwhelming, long experience. And then I had to catch a flight super early the next morning to get back to Philly. So
okay, so that's Minnie. Now
and y'all won Minnie.
So let me tell you about something that a fun fact about Minneapolis that no one knows. So my daughter, her birthday was that game, right? That day. So February 4th is her birthday and my birthday is February 5th. And you will hear him say, oh, this is a ring for my daughter and my wife because our birthdays were
right there.
Hers was there and mine was the next day. Emerson just turned 2 that day. So she was like, we were still kind of like potty training her and, you know, she was still in like pull-ups. I don't feed her like McDonald's. I don't feed her fast food. We're on a plane and my aunt and uncle at the airport give her some McDonald's, right?
Oh.
Her stomach was messed up that whole weekend. So like she's on pull-ups and I'm like timing it. Like, let's go to the bathroom. Let's like, so we know they told us like, hey, if it's obvious, you come down at this time, you meet in this tunnel, you meet here at the 2-minute mark, if it's obvious. So I'm like timing it, right? You know, like, okay, it was tight. You know, with Tom Brady, you cannot count him out, right?
Absolutely.
So I think it was like at the 5-minute mark, I was going out to the bathroom with Emerson, like, come on, let me like make sure she goes to the bathroom. She had pooped her pants, right?
Oh my God.
So I'm thinking like, okay, let me go ahead and change her. I see all of the girls rushing down. I must have didn't get the message on my phone. I saw the girls rushing down. I'm like, where y'all going? We got like a couple minutes because, you know, 5 minutes is really like 15 minutes.
It is.
You know? It's a longer time. So I was trying to gauge it. I'm like, where y'all going? We got time. Like, it's only 5-minute mark. You know, I think we have a commercial break. And she's like, no, Tom Brady. They're telling both families, one is going to meet on this side and we're going to meet on this side. We have to go now because if you don't go down now, you're going to miss. You're going to miss it. So keep in mind, my daughter is just pooped her pants. So I have to run back and tell my family like, yo, me and Emerson, we have to go down. I'll see you guys afterwards. And I had to figure out how I'm going to change her diaper. So at that time, I'm really, really good friends with like Michelle Sprouse. And so like we're rushing down and we're going down. I'm like, I have to change Emerson. Like if we win this game and we're on the field, she's going to have this on her for hours. Like I cannot allow this to happen. So they're running, we're done running down the tunnel and we're looking for something for me to change her. We found the security desk and we asked the security, like, can I please change my daughter here? Right. And my girlfriends, they like covered her up for me. They stood there. And then I just remember like changing her and then everybody just erupted in this big roar and they running toward me like, Brandon got a strip sack. We're winning the Super Bowl. And I just bust out crying like I missed it. Like I missed it. Yay! Changing my daughter. So like cameras are in my face. Like, what do you think? Did you see the play? I was like, I didn't see it. I was changing my daughter. Changing the poopy diaper.
Changing the poopy diaper due to that McDonald's. Dang it. That's why I told y'all not to give her that.
Don't be feeding my baby that stuff.
Look, she is not used to it.
Oh, that is an awesome story. Yes. I love it.
Okay, so real quick. So y'all won Minnie and then you had AZ.
AZ was so much fun. Like
best place ever.
The weather. I love Arizona.
I'm from Arizona.
You are? I love it there. Like it was so peaceful. Like we were on like this reserve and like it just felt so peaceful. We were away from the rah-rah. It honestly, it felt right. Like, okay, we didn't feel like it didn't feel like this chaoticness like we did in Minneapolis. Like everything like went smoothly. The team knew what to expect. They were organized because they did it before.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, okay, you know, we had family come into town, but this time, no, I think we only gave out like 5 tickets that time.
Yeah.
Like people got an Airbnb and they watched the party. Watched the game at the house, and we told them like, we'll get you tickets to the after party if we win. But we kept it very light this time. And unfortunately, it wasn't the turnout that we wanted, but it was a great time. Like I had a really, really good time. I was able to go out and have a good time and do things. I felt like we were in Minneapolis. We were like in a hotel. We couldn't really do nothing. It was too cold.
It was so cold. Yeah.
So it was like night and day with both experiences.
Well, my
and those tickets, girl.
Oh yeah, they're crazy. They were crazy. They were absolutely.
They were like double,
insane.
Triple. It was bananas.
Yeah. And it's only because, to your point, nice weather, people gonna come. They already knew they was gonna pay. And the teams involved, all of the above. But my girlfriend, she is a diehard Eagles fan. She's also from the D. She came with me to the Arizona, the game in Arizona. And when I say she was so depressed when y'all lost, she just knew y'all was going to win. It was just one of those games where she was just like, I jinxed him. I shouldn't have came.
It was so heartbreaking because my daughter
something about Arizona, Toya.
Yeah. My daughter and my son, like they understood the dynamics of it all. They knew this was a big game.
Yeah.
They knew, like, just from being here in Philly, like when we get done playing, we go on the field. They knew it was, and I remember holding my son, and he's so patient because he loves the game, right? And so he took a little nap. He wakes up, he finished watching the game, and then he's looking at the score, and he's like, you know, like, Mommy, you know, we need to get some more points. Like, you know, I want to go on the field because if we get more points and we win, we go on the field, right? And I was like, yes, if we get more points, we win. And then I just remember us because I was sitting in front of Kylie because her family was behind me, the Kelsey family. And I just remember it just being just like, what just happened? Like it just went, it was like the Matrix. Like, what is going on?
That's
like,
exactly what she said.
It was like, what happened?
Yeah.
And then it just went downhill so fast. And then when the confetti came down and my kids looked at me and I was like, no, we didn't. They just started bawling, like crying, like, we don't get to go to the field. We want to see Daddy. So it was that was heartbreaking.
Terrible. We lost in Arizona too. Yeah.
Oh,
we lost in there. We lost in
did?
Arizona too. Yeah. And the first one we won in New York. I didn't take my son. The second one, I took my son. I'm like, you know, we gonna do it. And that was the Tom Brady whole situation where you like, you know, you can't count them out, and everybody still talk about that run, or that pass, not a run. But anywho, okay, let's get into this game, Toya.
Yeah, so we play a game called the 2-minute drill.
Okay.
And it's super easy. It's fun. It's a this or that question, or it's a fill in the blank. So we're going to just ask you some fun questions and you get to answer for us. You ready?
All right.
Okay.
Whatever come to mind first.
You ready, Tia? Okay.
Yeah.
Rapid fire. Let's go. Which NFL team has the feistiest fans?
Philadelphia.
You are right.
Period.
Name one unpopular opinion that you have.
That it's glitz and glam, because it ain't.
Good one. Makeup or hair?
Hair.
If you could have a petty superpower that's completely petty and not heroic at all, what would it be?
That I can eat whatever I want and not have to work out and just like enjoy food, because I love food and my husband loves food, and I can't keep up with him, because if I keep up with him, I'm gonna be a butterball.
What is one thing your babies have taught you about yourself?
Patience. That patience is very important. You need patience in everything. And I would say communication, if I can do it like a bonus, like communicating on all levels, low levels, high levels, is very important, especially with like kids. Like you need to communicate.
So true.
What do you have your husband's name stored under?
hubby.
Okay, if you have a one-time use only wild card to do anything without any consequences, what would it be?
Ooh, I have a wild card with no consequences. It probably would be, I don't know, I'm scary, so I'm not going to drive fast.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
Let me think about that one.
Okay, name one AFC West team. It should be easy.
AFC West? Is that sure? Is that like LA Chargers?
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Okay. You know your stuff. Okay. Driver or passenger?
Driver, because I get motion sickness.
What was the first NFL away game you attended?
I think it was Cincinnati or the Browns. I think it was Cincinnati. I drove up from Chicago to Cincinnati, Ohio, to go see him play.
Awesome. Okay. If you open up your emails, how many unread emails do you have?
Oh, I'm looking at it now. I only have 3. I don't play about that. I don't play about my messages or my emails. Like I may not respond to it, but I'm going to look at it. I can't have a red bubble.
I'm the same way. I am the same way.
Okay. Last question. What is next for you?
What is next for me? So for me, I want to make sure my family is transitioning smoothly through this next phase in our life with Brandon. I want to make sure that he is mentally healthy to get through that. So a part of me is focusing on that. And then a part of me is focusing on my experience in getting back out in the field of helping women and children and breastfeeding and lactation and making sure everybody has the information, the right information, and the right help that they are looking for.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
All right, Carlyne, if people want to get a hold of you, where do they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. I only have well, I guess I got TikTok, but I'm old. I can't figure that out. It's my first and last name, Carlyne Graham. It's both of them, Instagram and TikTok.
And I'll be sure to put links to both in the show notes. But thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for having me. This was the first time that I shared my story like that. Ooh, you guys are good.
I feel so blessed to have you on. Like we could go on and on and on. So, well, we'll see you. Hopefully we'll see you.
Yes.
In February.
Yes. I'm so sad that I missed the first time, the first opportunity. I can't wait. I'm so mad I missed it.
We'll have another one. Don't you worry.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for having me.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. That is our show. For the latest on the Inside Lines podcast, make sure to follow us at Inside Lines Podcast on both Instagram and Facebook.
You can also listen online and share your favorite episodes at our website, which is insidelinespodcast.com. And if y'all don't know by now, we have a YouTube channel. That's right. Follow us at Inside Lines Podcast and make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you get all the notifications when the new episode comes out.
Until next time, leave it all out on the field. Thanks for listening.